like a drug that can't be tamed. It's in our blood, it's in our soul.
Love it.
It's so rock and it's so roll.
Hi, my name is Stevie and I like to write songs. I've had a request from one of my viewers, Leonardo Miliava. Hope I got your name right, man. He wants me to write an early Bon Scott era AC/DC song. I thought, I'm a big fan of AC/DC, why not? Let's give it a go. When I was about 9 or 10, I was a very awkward, shy kid. And there must have been some kind of family occasion where my cousins visited our house. And I had an older cousin. He tried to make conversation with this shy, awkward kid. And he was asking me what kind of music I was into. And I didn't want to look like a noob to him. So I says, yeah, I'm into all kinds of music. In reality, I wasn't really into music at all. It wasn't on my radar. I didn't really understand any modern pop music or stuff like that. The only music I knew was... sometimes when my dad was having a drink with his friends, we had this big old wooden record player with storage in it for all the vinyl and stuff, and he would take out Frank Sinatra albums and he would put them on for his friends. And that was my only exposure to music at this point. So my cousin said, I suppose you're into all that heavy rock stuff and all. Not wanting to look stupid, I said, yep, love that stuff. I'm a pure rocker. I didn't even know what that meant. And he said, I've got some albums, I'll send them down and you can have a listen to them. And sure enough, he was good to his word. About a week later, an album arrived for me, and it was AC/DC Highway to Hell, my first ever record. I took my dad's old Perry Como record off the turntable. I put on my record and put the needle on, and the opening chords of Highway to Hell blasted out, and then I heard Bon Scott's voice. I was hooked for life. I listened to that album so many times that I knew every nuance of every song in that album. Even by the time, years later, when I started learning the guitar, as soon as I heard a D chord or a G chord, I instantly recognized it as being sounds that I knew from that record. To this day, it's still one of my favorite records of all time. If I really had to choose, maybe Power Rage slightly pips it at the post as the best AC/DC album. But Highway to Hell has a special place in my heart as my very first ever record. So it'll be a lot of fun today finding out how much I know about AC/DC, or don't know for that matter. Let's have a go at writing this song and see what we can come up with. Okay, so probably the first thing to notice about AC/DC is they always have very simple, straightforward, 4 to the floor drum beats. Let's make one of those for starters. Okay, let's hear it. Now, the first thing that comes to mind to me is that snare drum doesn't really sound like AC/DC. AC/DC typically have a deeper, more percussive snare than that. That's quite a thin, metal-sounding snare. Let's audition some of the snare drums and see if we can find one that's more suitable for AC/DC. That sounds pretty similar to the one I already use. Too high, too high, too high, too ringy. Far too ringy. Even worse. Right, that's probably the closest so far. The Pearl is the one we're already using, so that's no good. Right, between the Ludwig and the Tama so far. The Slingerland might be good if we're going for something really low. Let's try the Tama first. Yeah. Oh, the Tama for deafs. Now, I get the impression AC/DC's drums sound a lot drier than mine as well. So I'll maybe take some of the snare out of the overhead and maybe take down some of the room as well. So let's find the right reverb and room sound settings. think somewhere like that. Okay, that'll do. So I've put quite a bit of effort into getting these drums to sound as close to AC/DC as possible, but it's no mean feat. I've tried to get the accents right on the hi-hats, and I've added a little double as well, Highway to Hell style. So let's hear what we have now. So that's our drums part. I might as well add some of the mastering plugins on the 2-bus as well. So I'm using H-Comp. I'm experimenting with this for a minute because I like the way it's got sync to host release. And I think that might be a good compressor for me to start using going forward. And it sounds great. Bit of EQ just to boost the bottom end and scoop out some mids. A bit of air on the top. And my usual mastering effect. So let's hear how that affects the drums now. Sounds even more like AC/DC now with the mastering effects on. Okay, we're on our way. We've got our 4 to the floor drum beat. Okay, so this is my usual guitar sound. It's not really going to cut it for AC/DC, so let's try and make a new patch that sounds more AC/DC. We could go through all the Marshall amps and see if we can find one that suits us. None of them have really the sort of AC/DC scoop that I'm looking for. They all sound a bit mid-rangey. That's the closest so far. Okay, the Plicator. I think that's probably the closest sounding Marshall amp we have so far. Too much gain, but let's see if we can pull down the gain to something that's more suitable. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's got an AC/DC vibe to it, I think. Cool. Alright, so let's talk a wee bit about how AC/DC approach rhythm guitar, Malcolm and Angus together. The first thing you'll notice about AC/DC is they like to use very simple, open chords. But they've got a very special way of doing this. While they play open chords, they mute quite a lot of notes. So when they, for example, when they play a G, you can hear that low. And you can hear... And of course there's no third in it. If they play an E, they just play the low 3 notes. But there's a very subtle thing that happens when you hear them playing things like an E. They don't play it like this. They play it like this, which means there's a very, very soft resonance of the actual third of the chord. You don't hear this, but you do hear that the G string, because it's fingered, is ringing out sympathetically with the chord. And it gives quite a subtle effect of the song being in a major key. And this is quite an interesting thing because the vocals are almost always minor. So you hear the very subtle influence of the major thirds coming from the guitars, while Bon Scott typically sings a lot of minor thirds. So we'll look at that later. Hopefully I can write some kind of vocal melody as well that does that has minor thirds over the top of the major chords, because I think it's an important thing about AC/DC. And so the same with the D. They don't sound out this third, because that would sound like Oasis and that would be really clumsy. They don't play the third, but they do finger it, so you can very, very just about get the idea that it's a major D and not a minor. So that's typically the chords that you'd hear in an AC/DC song. There's another thing that I notice about the way AC/DC play their rhythm guitars that's very distinctive of the band. We have a very straightforward 4/4 beat where the drums accent every quarter note, and the guitars typically like to play in between the quarter notes. So they syncopate a lot with the drums. They like to play on the parts of the bar where the drums aren't playing, and it gives a very syncopated, very funky, cool vibe to AC/DC. Let's loop the drum beat. So they like to do this. You see how I'm playing outside of what the drums are doing? It's all these kinds of syncopated playing, along with that special way of playing chords, that really summon up and evoke the spirit of AC/DC. Now, we really need a riff. I mean, I think typically AC/DC get an email from God with the greatest simple rock guitar riff ever, and then they use that in a song. We don't have that. We have a time pressure. We have to come up with a riff right now so that we can move on with the song. So I'm going to try and come up with something. So what we ended up with is a riff that sounds like a cross between Bad Boy Boogie and Highway to Hell. It's the same chords as Highway to Hell, except it doesn't have that F sharp on the bass. It's got that syncopation, but it's also got the Bad Boy Boogie kind of syncopation. I'm happy enough with that riff. It's fine. It's like something AC/DC would come up with. Let's see if we can kind of arrange a start for the song, because I kind of imagined that maybe the guitar would come in on its own, Highway to Hell style. Okay, cool. We're definitely summoning up a bit of an AC/DC vibe here. This is cool. Right, so let's talk about AC/DC lyrics. Now, Bon Scott is actually a very witty lyricist. Now, I'm going to try and stay clear of the sexual innuendos. I don't think my wife and my daughters would be too happy about me writing some kind of sexist song, even though I find these songs quite funny myself. So one of the other approaches that AC/DC go for is singing about being a rogue or a villain or an outcast. And they also sing quite a lot about electricity, and they use electricity as a metaphor for their music. I've sort of made a couple of word clouds here about being a rebel, a bad boy, and various words to do with electricity to see if anything here sparks an idea for the lyrics. Now, I'm going to have to play the riff for a while and look at these words and see if any of these words inspire me to come up with a few phrases, and then we can get the ball rolling. Right, so these are the lyrics that I've come up with. Because I've got a more limited range than Bon Scott, he can sing away up here, and I can't sing away up there. So my highest sort of range is around here. And because the song's in A, I wanted to hold that back for the chorus up here. Singing up there. It's just about what I can reach. So for the verses, I was thinking of being down in the E. Okay, and we could go around that for a while. And just like Highway to Hell. So that's the thing they do. They come out of the staccato, syncopated rhythm guitars into something more. And we'll do that maybe for the chorus. I'm very aware that what we're doing here sounds very similar to Highway to Hell. I'm trying my best to sort of do subtle changes to it that'll make it not Highway to Hell. But let's have a go at singing these lyrics and see if it spurs me into something for the chorus.
I'm a rebel, I'm a sinner, and I'm ready to fight. I'm an outlaw, I'm a winner, I'm the king of the night. It's what remains in my veins. It's like a drug and it can't be tamed. It's in our blood, it's in our soul. It's so rock and it's so raw. I'm a rebel, I'm a sinner, and I'm ready to fight. I'm an outlaw, I'm a winner, I'm the king of the night. It's what remains in my veins. It's like a drug and it can't be tamed. It's in our blood, it's in our soul. It's so rock and it's so
Right, it's a bit monotone. I think there's the opportunity to maybe put in the G over those A's and stuff, which is a nice dominant 7 typed note that's very common in AC/DC. And I think maybe on the first line of each phrase, I should try and, I'm a rebel, try and do something like that instead. So let's have another go, and I'll maybe overdub. Let me see.
I'm a rebel, I'm a sinner,
That's fine.
and I'm ready to fight.
Good.
I'm an outlaw,
Redo that
I'm a
one.
winner, I'm the king of the night. It's what remains
That's
in
okay.
my veins. It's like a drug and it can't be tamed. It's in our blood, it's in our soul.
Maybe it's in our blood.
It's in our blood.
It's in our blood. Yeah, let's do that instead. So we just want to add those extra notes in just so that the vocal melody isn't so monotone. Let's try that.
I'm a rebel, I'm a sinner, and I'm ready to fight. I'm an outlaw, I'm a winner, I'm the king of the night. It's what remains in my veins. It's like a drug and it can't be tamed. It's in our blood, it's in our soul. It's so rock and it's so raw.
Right, that felt a bit better.
I'm a rebel, I'm a sinner, and I'm ready to fight. I'm an outlaw, I'm a winner, I'm the king of the night. It's what remains, it's in our blood, it's in our soul.
Okay, right, so we can lose these and put these ones up onto that track just to keep things tidy. Right, I think we need to get back to making some music now, because I think here we're definitely going to do that Highway to Hell thing, go down to E.
It's so raw.
Right, so what would the drums do here?
It's so rock and it's so raw.
Okay, cool. Now I'll go back into that drum beat again.
It's in our blood, it's in our soul. It's so rock and it's so raw.
it's going to be the chorus is the most important thing, and if we can write a chorus over these chords now, then we're halfway there. While I was recording those guitars, I had another idea. It always appeared to me like when AC/DC, when I was listening to their guitar sounds, they never quite sounded 100% like what you were hearing was just a Marshall. I always thought I could hear like a treble boost coming from the desk or something like that. This is a preset that I use quite a lot here on MixHub. Let's hear the effect that it has on the guitars. It has that more in-your-face, biting kind of AC/DC sound. I think what all we're doing really is sort of adding, 6K, adding a wee bit of 3K as well. What does this sound like here?
It's so rockin', it's so raw.
Let's see if I can come up with lyrics for that now. I was looking at my sort of word chart of all electrical things for the chorus, and I started thinking about the actual electricity that's involved in setting up a live show, like a big AC/DC concert, about the amount of wattage that's involved and the amount of electricity that's involved for the light show and all. I made a little pun with this first line. We light the stage with the power and rage. A little reference to my favourite AC/DC album. Then I used a rhyming dictionary to say, well, what rhymes with rage? I got gauge, disengage, and rampage. And I went, well, there we go. Now, we light the night like a 16 gauge. Now, this is obviously some kind of shotgun, but I'm from Ireland, so we don't have guns here, so I don't even know what a 16 gauge is. But I assume it's some kind of impressive gun. So if there's anybody there that knows anything about guns, you can let me know whether that's an appropriate thing to say. I don't know. But I would assume it makes some kind of flash when you shoot it. So we light the night like a 16 gauge. We won't back down. So it's got that kind of machismo, hardman, AC/DC thing that they always like to posture about in their songs. And then on the rampage, we'll call the song Rampage for now. Let's see if we can put together these lyrics. Right, let's have a quick listen. Bass guitar, we need bass guitar. We need bass guitar immediately. Right, let's try and work out what this bass guitar should do. Okay, so AC/DC's bass lines are very famous for very straightforward stuff like that. And then during the sort of tresillo bit, I realised that probably AC/DC would just have the same note the whole way through. If the simplest solution works, then that's what they do.
It's in our soul. It's the rock and it's the roll. We let the stage with the power rage. We let the night like a 16 gauge. We were back down and disengaged on the rampage. We let the stage with the power rage. We let the night like a 16 gauge. We were back down and disengaged on the rampage. On the rampage.
I am working on the principle that in Highway to Hell, there's no bass guitar until the build-up into the chorus. And let's see if that works. I like the way there's no cymbal crash at the start of that. That's very AC/DC.
I'm a rebel, I'm a sinner, and I'm ready to fight. I'm an outlaw, I'm a winner, I'm the king of the night. It's what remains in my veins. It's like a drug and it can't be tamed. It's in our blood, it's in our soul. It's the rock and it's the roll. We let the stage with the power rage.
Ah, the chorus sounds good.
Like a 16 gauge. We were back down and disengaged on the rampage. We let the stage with the power rage. We let the night like a 16 gauge. We were back down and disengaged on the rampage. On the rampage.
Well, there we go. I made a verse and a chorus, and it does have a fairly authentic AC/DC feel to it. So we'll take a break at that for now, and next week I'll do the guitar solo and verse 2 and see if I can work out some kind of outro for the song. It was an interesting experiment. I think it's very easy to underestimate AC/DC because their music is so straightforward and simple. But there's a lot of attention to detail that goes into AC/DC. There's nuances that are very, very important, especially when the music is this simple. Okay, so I hope you're enjoying this process. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video around with your friends, support the channel, help me to grow. I'm on a push this year to get 1,000 subscribers, so any help that you can do will be much appreciated. Thank you so much, guys. You guys rock.